the best speakers, a lot of knowledge to share in a very short space of time. So you're guaranteed to leave here with nuggets of wisdom. It is 3 o'clock and we are live. We're just going to give it a couple of minutes to see that everything is going smoothly on all of the channels that we're live streaming to. So if you can hear me and see me, give me a thumbs up, either on LinkedIn or on YouTube, which is where we are live streaming this webinar today. A little bit of housekeeping before we get going. So first of all, I want you to hit the subscribe button if you're on LinkedIn or YouTube, because you never want to miss another webinar with us. I'm sure you're going to enjoy this one immensely, because I know I am. But if you lose us or things look strange on your screen, just refresh your browser and we'll come straight back into the live stream with us. You are more than welcome to ask these lovely ladies here questions. So this is a very interactive session. We want to hear your questions. We want to try and help you with some of the things that you might be struggling with in your affiliate programs, or things that you maybe just want to know or ask people that are very, very experienced to help you with. So we definitely want to be hearing questions from you. If you do want to ask questions, you need to get into our YouTube channel, because that is where the questions will be answered and selected from. So if you're watching us on LinkedIn, it's absolutely fine. You can watch us all the way through, but we're not going to be able to take questions through the LinkedIn chat. You have to get on over to our YouTube channel and watch us live there, and then you'll be able to type in questions into the chat, and I'll be looking at that throughout this webinar as well. So if you're liking what we are talking about and you're liking what we're saying, subscribe to our YouTube channel, because we want more and more people to watch these free webinars each month and learn a little bit about what's happening in the affiliate industry around us as we bring these lovely experts together each month. All right, so turn off your phones, get focused, grab a glass of water. We're going to be talking about a lot of things. You might want to get a pen and a piece of paper as well. And if you're joining us, remember you can head on over to the YouTube channel to ask questions live in this session, and we'll be happy to take those. I'm just going to take a moment quickly and make sure that we are live and streaming. Okay, so we've got quite a few people in the live chat already, which is great. So thank you so much for joining us. We're excited to be here with you today. And remember, if you've got questions, you can ask them in the live chat on YouTube. All right. So I always like to ask people where they're from. Like it's good for us. We're going to be sitting teaching and talking to you today, but it's always nice to know, where are people joining us from? So if you are joining us live on LinkedIn or YouTube, head on over to the YouTube channel. Tell us a little bit about where you're from, what kind of program you run, what country you're coming from, because all of these things matter in terms of the advice and the strategies that we're going to give you today. So tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, why you're here, what your biggest struggle is, and hopefully we'll be able to get through to all of that on the live chat on YouTube. So thank you so much for joining us. And I'm seeing lots more people join us on YouTube, so that's fantastic. We might have a really interactive session today, which we're excited about. Okay, so welcome everybody. I'm going to stop talking now and let the lovely ladies to my right on the screen introduce themselves. But today we're discussing incrementality and how to measure it, what it is, why you should be looking at it in your affiliate program. And I think I'm going to start with Daisy, who's live on my screen at the top, and then let the rest of the guests on my panel today just do a short introduction to themselves, just to let you know where they're from and what their experience is and why you should be listening to them today. So Daisy, I'm going to hand over to you to start.
Thanks, Leanne. So as Leanne said, my name's Daisy. I am currently the Regional Vice President of Channel Partnerships at impact.com. And there I focus on supporting an ecosystem of agency partners to facilitate growth for our brands, and also to sustain general growth within the industry, providing value, providing insights, and enabling them to ensure that they are power users of our product. Prior to Impact, I have worked at other more traditional networks. I have also been publisher side, both in the content end and in the voucher end. And I bring 11 years worth of experience discussing incrementality. This is a topic that has not yet been solved, seems to be relatively persistent, but I do believe that we are improving our understanding as each year of my career goes on. I'll hand over to Nedra to introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Nedra. Nice to meet you all. And thanks, Daisy. I'm Nedra. I've been with Skyscanner for the last 7 years. In the last 5 years, more predominantly looking after affiliate and partnerships. So we look at the likes of the long tail traditional affiliates, the long-tail affiliates, as well as B2B partnerships. And essentially, my role is to lead up. I lead up the enablement function. So what my team does and what my role is to support, our partners from everything technical integrations to like attribution to understanding how we track data. So for the last 7 years, my life has just been at Skyscanner. It's been great being in travel. So I'll pass it on to Chloe.
Thank you so much. I'm Chloe. I am Performance Marketing Manager at Swarovski. I've been here for about a year and then previously was at Farfetch for 3 years. Been in the affiliate space for 11 years, almost to the day. Started in August 2014 at CJ. And then I've done network side and then client side, but never publisher side. But as you can imagine, client side, we're very focused on incrementality. We always get questions about the affiliate space. Is it truly incremental? And it's something we're always looking to test and prove and make sure that we're showing what a great channel the affiliate space is.
Awesome. And for those of you who don't know who I am, my name's Leanne Johnston, and I'm the founder of Affiverse Media. We also run an agency, but we're predominantly helping the world to do affiliate marketing better by bringing people like this to your door so you can understand really complex things that are happening in the space and hopefully help you to do affiliate program management and affiliate marketing a little bit better for your business. I'm going to hand over to Daisy now, who has graciously agreed to do the moderation of this panel and this discussion as we do round 2 of this discussion, because it originally took place at the fabulous Impact IPX event in London, which was just phenomenal. But I thought my community who didn't get to go to that event would absolutely love the content too. So they've all agreed to come onto this webinar today to share some of the insights that we shared at that event. So Daisy, I'm going to hand over to you to take it forward.
Thank you very much, Leanne. So as I kind of alluded to in my introduction, I was quite surprised initially to see this topic come up at various events in 2025. It does feel like something that as an industry, we're known for being innovative and dynamic. And I know that there are a lot of highly focused heads looking at this particular problem. So it feels like something we might have solved by now. But the thing is, it is a universal challenge faced by all partnership marketers at some stage in their careers, whether they're brand side, agency side, publisher or platform side. And the question being, is this activity truly incremental? But the reason I believe that we've not solved it yet is that the question of incrementality is both increasingly complex and even perhaps less significant if we consider the modern customer journey. So I am really excited to tackle this topic once again and have another opportunity to hear on how you guys are doing it. So I do just want to start with the basics. I'm aware that we've got lots of different people dialing into this webinar who may be at different stages of their careers and maybe from different actors within the industry. So to get us all on the same page, let's start with the basics. How are we defining incrementality and what does it mean to your brand in particular, Chloe, at Swarovski?
Yes, of course. So at Swarovski, we consider incrementality to be where we get sales from an activation that we wouldn't have gotten otherwise. Seems straightforward, is not straightforward, especially when you're working with your analytics team on this, who says to you, oh, let's do an A/B test and switch off half of your partners. So it's definitely a learning curve internally at Swarovski for the affiliate space on how we prove the sales that we're driving are truly incremental, and we wouldn't have gotten them without our affiliate partners.
Yeah, 100%. And Nedra obviously coming at this from client side as well, but a totally different vertical with a totally different customer journey, decision-making process, path to conversion. What does incrementality mean at Skyscanner?
I think, we are quite different from Swarovski as a business and an industry, but I think incrementality for us is also quite similar. It's kind of like, whether it's just to kind of understand the activity that we're running today. Is it bringing in new users or new revenue that we wouldn't have already gotten if we didn't run that activity, essentially? So it's constantly assessing to see, does it make sense for us to continue running a certain type of activity that drives us additional growth? or are we just essentially cannibalizing what we would have already earned with our existing channels? And especially when your business is at a stage where it's mature, it's running in multiple channels, those are sort of the things that you want to think about, like if we're running a certain activity, are we cannibalizing, organic traffic that comes in, or like traffic that comes via SEO or paid? How do we ensure all of that? So that's kind of why incrementality is so important, because users just come in from different parts and different sides of the internet, essentially.
So I just want to add a little bit in there as well from an agency perspective, because obviously we work across multiple different types of programs in the B2B SaaS industry, and also e-commerce and gaming as well, where incrementality isn't even thought about, like it's not even looked at, to be honest. And they spend a lot of money in performance. But one thing that I heard that was really interesting from an event that I've just been to in India is that there is no funnel anymore. So tracking incrementality is very difficult, which is what you mentioned, Chloe, as well at the start, is that what is the measurement? Like, what is the formula of how do you track incrementality when you no longer have a singular funnel of how people come into your sales mix or into your shopping cart? So I think really getting to grips with what does incrementality mean to you in your business. It may not be the same as what Nedra and Chloe and some of the clients that I deal with, what they are measuring. So understanding your data is the first thing that you need to understand, and understanding what you want to track out of incrementality is the second, because it might not be the same company to company or program to program that you manage.
Mm-hmm. And I think there's something to pick up on there as well. I mean, obviously, Nedra, you've been with Skyscanner now for 7 years, and Chloe, you're very tenured in the industry. I would imagine that there are some people in the audience who are maybe managing programs that aren't so mature, or perhaps they're just entering the affiliate channel. And should they be worried about incrementality? At what stage of program maturity or even brand maturity is this really something to focus on? I don't know if Leanne, you've got an opinion on that. I know that you speak to lots and lots of different brands across the industry.
I would say in the first 12 months of your program, like your focus is really just building relationships and getting affiliates on board. And at that point, you're looking at anything net new outside of the original channels that you're working in. It could be paid, SEO, whatever the case may be. So you're going to be recruiting the partner types that augment the direct to consumer marketing channels that you are already invested in as a business. So in the first 12 to 18 months of your program, you're really going to be focused on other KPIs. Incrementality isn't going to be top of the list. But I'm sure for programs like Skyscanner and Swarovski, it's very, very incrementally important, because they're spending so much money in other channels as well. So understanding the value that the partnerships channel brings to you and what that KPI is incredibly important. And that's where incrementality becomes the measurement that tells you whether you're on the right path and whether your partners are actually adding value to your sales funnel. And maybe you guys want to talk about that, but like, I would say from probably maybe even two years onwards, depending on how quickly your program has grown, that's around about the time in the life cycle of your program where you're going to start looking at things like incrementality, and you're going to start looking at profit margins. But under that, your first objective is to open a program, get affiliates live, test different traffic sources, build trust. So if you're quite new into the journey, understanding what incrementality is still important, because at some stage you are going to want to measure it. But under the 2-year mark, I don't think it's not really that relevant. And like I said, depending on what industry you're working in, incrementality might not even be a problem for you, because in the iGaming space, they don't look at incrementality, they just want sales. So the KPI for their affiliates is very different to what an e-commerce brand would be, where you might be having more of a brand play or leveraging partners to get into new markets.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, Leanne. I mean, at Swarovski, I think we've had our affiliate program since like 2014, so a long time. We work with all of the main partners already, and we're kind of like past the stage of onboarding and driving sales that way. So we're very much focused on the incrementality side of things, which we are doing via a lot of testing, be it via creatives, tendencies, commissions. We work really closely with our analytics team to create the tests that help prove the incrementality of our partners. And the plus side of this is, with a big company like Swarovski, that also means if we can prove the incrementality, then that opens the opportunity to have more budget for the channel, because it really shows were high ROAS, but then also high incrementality. One thing I do want to say to anyone who's like new in the space or a new company is like incrementality is nothing to panic about. We are always testing, and not all tests are going to be good tests. But as long as you have a story from it and you can prove that the reason you did the test and what the outcome was and what your learning is off the back of it, then you should never be worried about incrementality, because everything is a learning process for all of our programs. And even if it's not necessarily what the outcome is not what you thought it was going to be, it's still a learning that you can take back internally and you can share, and you can build your program off the back of that.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Go on, Nedra.
No, I was just gonna say, like, essentially, it's like, I mean, whatever we do at Skyscanner is very much just kind of, I mean, what I'm thinking of as well is a good combination of what Leanne and Chloe basically said, right? Like, it all depends as to like what stage of the journey your business is in. It's like, you know, when you first start out, you're gonna go for like the super downstream, like the super, like, going for like high intent users type of like journey, and then it's like you kind of work through the different funnel, and when you start to look at the full funnel user journey, that's kind of where you need to understand, you know, what kind of partners would come in at what funnel. So say for example, you wouldn't have, you know, someone like a content, they would be someone who's driving for brand awareness or like brand and getting like, you know, branding share of voice type of like metrics, versus like someone who is like a cashback who's very revenue driven high intention users. So I think it's just also kind of understanding all of that and understanding like the strategy that you have, like echoing everything that Chloe and Leanne said, like at the start of it, it's like just really trying and testing everything out. Like it won't always 100% be a good test. There will be tests you'll fail and tests that you have to learn from, and you'll learn from, and you kind of like pivot from there. That's the only way, because the more data you get, the more you're able to dice and slice into like performance, and data never lies. It's going to tell you exactly, you know, how you're able to understand that user journey, where we should be investing more money in, where you're getting the results from. And I think it's that, yeah, I think it's just kind of understanding, you know, where you plan to go. But first part of it all is just to test and see how things go for you.
I'm going to pick up on a point that you made there that I do think is really powerful, but I think it'd be helpful to expand on it a little bit in this comment that data never lies. And I think that's really interesting, because what source are you using for that data, right? So before you're setting out to create a test, you're putting your parameters in place, I think it's really important for brands to consider what is their source of truth. So how are they going to make a fundamental call on what that story is from the data? So everyone's nodding along, which I'm assuming means that we've all had this conversation at some point. Do you have a single source of truth at a Skyscanner? You know, are you confident that the data that you have is able to support the hypotheses or able to disprove the hypotheses that you have set out to test?
Yeah, I think, I mean, that's a tricky question for me to answer, just because I think, for one, Skyscanner we've been in the industry for years. Data is kind of the backbone of everything that we do. Data can get as complex as it can, I think more so than like an e-commerce or retailer, just because of the way we manage data, we handle data. And it's like, I think for us is we have, I mean, because we also consume data from downstream supply partners that we work with. So like the likes of like British Air and like, you know, airlines or like OTAs, we ingest all of that data. So internally understanding data is already a big thing. And then I think from there, I think to your question, Daisy, it's also understanding what metrics are important for you. You know, for some people, maybe it's impressions, maybe it's just like the clicks into a session. But for us, like for our channel, we care a lot about obviously the revenue that we earn and we drive, and on top of that as well, the cost and the amount of money we put into each of these investments, which is very slightly, I mean, it varies and it's slightly different from different channels within the business. So I think it's like coming down to like trust of the data. Like we have been in the industry for a long time. We know how data works. We know where we're sourcing our data from, and we kind of like have a lot of proofs and checks in place. So it's a little bit difficult for me to comment in there. But I don't know, maybe Leanne, you would have sort of perspective from, you know, the experiences that you have with different brands as well.
Yeah. I mean, from my perspective, incrementality means different things to different people, because in SaaS, for example, we're not actually necessarily measuring incrementality on the number of sales. We're also measuring incrementality in the number of leads that come into the sales funnel. So if a sale doesn't happen like in a shopping cart, but there needs to be a sales call or business development or a demo or whatever the case may be, we don't necessarily track incrementality by sales completed in the month. We track how many demo calls happened last month to this month. So your source of truth, and this is one of the things that I really do love about the Impact product, and there's this is available in other products too. I can't be I have to be agnostic, but one of the key sources of data that I really love in the Impact programs that we manage is that we can manage events. And so we can set up indicators and events that can tell us whether we are getting incremental sales based on the activities that affiliates are taking. And when you've got a single source of truth that can give you that kind of data, it really does help you to, one, tell the story, I need more budget, because this is actually making a difference in terms of how many sales are coming through. And two, it helps you to provide the motivation that helps you to get that money, because often it's like, well, why should we spend money on performance when we can also spend it on paid ads and go into another market? Like, where do we spend that money best? So I think having a really good, robust tracking platform where all of your metrics are visible and easy to track when you are doing these little small incremental tests to test the incrementality is super, super important. But again, it boils down to what industry are you working in and what is it that you actually want to be tracking as incremental, because it could also be the value of customers that are incremental. Like, are affiliates bringing you customers that are more valuable? So one of our clients at the moment, we've actually ascertained within the first 6 months of launching their program that the affiliate channel is 4 times more valuable to them, because we are acquiring customers at a lower cost than any other digital channel that they're spending in. So they're not even worried about incrementality, because they're acquiring a customer at a third of or quarter of the price than they're spending in any other channel. And what they've started to realize is they don't want to limit the number of affiliates that come into the program now, and they don't want to not work with different partner types, which is usually the case that we have to overcome is, I don't want to work with cashback, or I don't want to work with this type of affiliate, because what they're seeing is the overarching reach over time is that all of these partners are filling the events that they need to fill in order to increase their incremental sales over time. So, I think you have to take it with a pinch of salt. You can't just track one thing.
I totally agree. And I think this comes into program maturity as well, right? So maybe when you are building and launching a program, you are focusing on bottom of the funnel partner relationships, because you want to be able to convert traffic at a high rate. However, as you start to look at a more full funnel approach, wanting to build the brand awareness through consideration, through purchase, and then even repeat purchase, leveraging the channel for all of those individual sales, then you can start to think about testing for, okay, well, if we removed one of those pieces of the funnel, what would that do to our overall cost of acquisition? What would that do to incrementality? There are other metrics that play in here when you think about a full funnel solution. And I think that the temptation originally is to try and kind of isolate one particular partner type as being incremental and just hone in on that. Like, a few years ago, it was content is king, and we should only have content sites in our affiliate programs. But actually, that approach is very one-dimensional, and it doesn't allow for your touch points to kind of engage with that consumer through all parts of their purchasing decision and all parts of how they move around that kind of pre-purchase environment. So I do think like publisher mix is important when you're thinking about incrementality, when you're thinking about like your data. I do appreciate the shout out, Leanne, as well as the BBC disclaimer. But it depends on, a platform is important. Also, your ability as a brand to be able to share those data points with your platform is also important. So, can you facilitate an integration type that passes back all of the data points that you require to make that decision about whether or not that sale was incremental? that was a long monologue from me. So I'm going to pass over to Chloe because we were talking way back about data points and whether or not the integrity of data and the kind of single source of truth is rich enough for you to be able to make those testing decisions. And you were nodding at that point. So
I still am. I think I would love a single source of truth. I think we would all love a single source of truth. But my single source of truth is impact. I log into impact. I can see how our partners are doing. I can use your guys's incrementality tools, and that's great. But the business's single source of truth is GA. And we all know GA4 does not like affiliates. So it's very much having to go back and forth between the two and come up with the story as to why, even if this partner is not necessarily showing up in GA4 as somebody who is driving a lot of traffic, driving a lot of engaged sessions, there's still someone that we should be optimizing with. So definitely using the tools that are provided with impact for this has been really helpful for us to kind of identify outside of what the business says looks like is a good partner to what we know is a good partner based off of how they're performing in impact, both for us and for competitors. It's definitely been a learning process. This is my first time using GA4 at Swarovski. So definitely been a learning process for it, but it's been interesting, and it's really given me a lot of experience in kind of pitching why we should be working with partners.
So I remember you saying on the chat when we were in London that you get asked sometimes to just switch off some partners to go and test something quickly. So maybe we should talk to people about why that doesn't actually work in testing incrementality. So maybe share some of that experience.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think everybody here, especially if you work in fashion or luxury, has had the experience of senior leadership coming to you and saying, you need to switch off all of your cashback partners. You need to switch off all of your voucher partners. They're not brand aligned. They aren't incremental. And obviously we know, being in the affiliate space, that we're very partner led. So this breaks the trust with your partner to begin with, which nobody wants. There's no guarantee that the revenue that you had previously coming from them, if you were to switch them back on, is going to come back. So it's definitely something where if someone were to come to me and say that, I would say there's no way that we're doing that. We can review how we're working with the partners. So be it we have a lower cashback rate for our sale products, we have a lower cashback rate for our existing customers. But I would never allow it to happen where we would switch off these partners, because it's going to ruin the relationship, ruin the program. And honestly, like we all know as well, it's a small industry. So you don't want to be that person who's going from place to place, just switching off cashback and voucher.
No, and I just want to quickly interject, because we do have people watching us live. If you want to ask questions, please head on over to the YouTube channel. But I do have my LinkedIn open. There is a question here. So is now a good time to pull that question in, ladies?
Yep.
Yeah.
So the question is, it's interesting that we are always asked to prove incrementality in affiliate marketing. Amen. We've just agreed to that. But do businesses undertake the same scrutiny for brand terms on paid search or offline activities? Really good question. What do you guys experience in terms of that? How much scrutiny comes under brand terms on paid search when measuring incrementality?
I can say from my experience, there is still a significant amount of scrutiny. Swarovski, we love testing, and luckily it applies across all channels, be it paid or organic. So our entire company is always testing and learning. And I will say I've never felt particularly picked on as an affiliate marketer, or even in the paid space, versus anyone else in the company, because we have the same expectations across the board.
Okay. Nedra, is that the same for you, or does your company approach it in a very different way?
Yeah, I was just going to say something quite similar, because I think there was a period of time our paid teams, they kind of switched off paid search brand search, and essentially what we decided was that we're going to put it back on because, and then I think kind of like testing to see what impact and what that drives for us, and that's kind of where the paid team has been working with like data science to understand all of that, because at the end of the day you want to protect your search, like your brand terms, as well as the fact that like, you know, you want to be able to be ranked at the top. And so that's kind of one of the things that we've been testing and trying, and it's like a little bit of like seeing what actually really works for us. So there was a period where we switched it off and we've been switching back on. We're just trying to see what the best approach is. And also with like the latest new buzzword, which is AI, it's obviously kicking a big fuss for everyone in the industry. And I think it kind of, I think it's digressing it a little bit, but I think it points back to the previous thing that we talk about the fact that it's no longer linear. People come in from any part of a journey, especially like, I think like if you're traveling, you'll be like, oh, you know, let me just ask GPT, let me ask, you know, how I should plan my itinerary. For us, for example, users come in from all sides, anywhere, even from AI, from like content, from like social, and it's like there's no one, you know, sector that it's key, you know, be it like paid brand search or like, you know, SEO or like all of these things. There's so many different parts of it, that which is the reason why like even more so incrementality is important to understand, especially when you have that many different touch points and everything is no longer linear in a way.
Well, the thing that's going to be quite interesting is hopefully, and Daisy, you can maybe take this back to the marketing team, when you update the incrementality report next year again, how does AI search impact the measurement of incrementality? Because we're already seeing SEO search is reducing. So the number of impressions and clicks that are happening through natural SEO is reducing. But how are affiliates going to play into that AI model of actually getting their traffic sources or websites or whatever, landing pages in there? And I know for a fact that it's a ripe open marketplace, and what you're going to see is competitors are going to start getting into that space too. So then how do you protect yourself? So this is probably a subject for our next webinar, but I think it's really, really relevant what you brought up, Nedra, because whilst the funnel doesn't exist anymore, there's no one way into the basket. There's multiple ways in. So how do you track that incrementality? But also we can't track incrementality in real time anymore. Like Chloe said, you can't just turn off affiliates and go, oh, okay, everything else has increased or the prices dropped or whatever the case may be, because there's also long-term effects that happen when you switch off things, especially in the SaaS industry. So yeah, you might not get so many leads anymore, but that then filters into less demos, which then filters into less business calls, which then filters into less sales. But you'd only see that happen 6 months after you did the incrementality test, because that's how long the sales pipe is. So yeah, I think it's quite, I mean, geez, I'm even confused. Like, it's like I think it's a suck and see, and it's really, there is no simple answer here. And it really does depend on who your business is. And maybe it's about getting experts in, if you're not experienced, to actually help you with the data, or get data scientists in to do project, work with you to understand if you feel that you're at that point in your kind of life cycle of your affiliate program.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is a topic for another webinar, and one that I'm certainly not not experienced enough to speak on.
None of us are, yeah.
The kind of leakage with the AI, summary, for example, ahead of actual affiliate sites and the engagement that happens on site. Yeah, I think published a team about that recently. I think there's going to be a resurgence of activity from placements. And this has been, I think, an area of diminishing returns, particularly during high seasonal periods like your Black Fridays, your Cyber Mondays, your, Boxing Day sales, etc. What we've seen over the last, at least in my experience anyway, is that a newsletter placement is not worth as much as it was 5 years ago. May cost the same, but it's not necessarily worth the same. And I think we're going to see the reversal of that. So the kind of actual intent of being able to land in someone's inbox, or whether we start looking at toolbars in a more different light as a way to kind of circumnavigate that search first approach and that search first customer journey. But as you say, like this isn't linear, and we need to take that into account when we are looking for incrementality incrementality tests. And I would wager that without the support of a business intelligence or insights unit, that is very, very difficult to structure. And particularly if you don't have the more robust tracking setup, then perhaps you don't need to go in that deep to begin with in order to really focus on incrementality. I think there are other kind of easier tests that you can do. You can have a look at, different commission rates. You can have a look at different publisher types being involved in different campaigns. And you can make this more of a micro test than such a big macro test. Because I think at the moment, like, unless you have that real robust and resilient methodology for your test, you're going to get lost in some of the noise and some of the pitfalls that now exist. But I love that as a very easy, like, yes, no. Would turning off all of your cashback and voucher affiliates make your program incremental? The answer is a resounding no. And I think that I think that's a really clear kind of takeaway. I guess to generate some more takeaways for the audience, I would love to know kind of what's the single most effective kind of thing that you have done or that you would advise doing to get over the challenge of incrementality. It's a bit.
I'm really from an agency perspective, because it's probably different to the perspective of working client side internally. But our biggest challenge is always getting all the right people around the table when we're trying to measure stuff. So it doesn't just involve our team. It would involve paid media, SEO, the PPC team. And we actually do that very regularly with our clients. We actually go into the office. We ingratiate ourselves into the entire digital marketing team as an extension of their team. And we sit down and we explain how the performance channel is going to augment and or support them in their endeavors. Because when you get the buy-in of the entire team around you, it becomes easier to work alongside them instead of cannibalizing what they're doing, or them thinking that you're cannibalizing or that affiliates are cannibalizing what they do. So that early education piece, when you kind of get into your role and you're in a bigger company where there's multiple different channels and maybe even other agencies that are working, it's very, very important to kind of all sing from the same hymn sheet. And that if you get that bit right at the beginning, everything else becomes easier, because one, you have allies who can help you and provide feedback loops. Two, you can sit down and understand, because I always see the affiliate channel, and maybe this is different to every other agency, but I see us as service providers to the rest of the digital marketing channel, because our channel or our program crosses multiple different traffic sources. We don't just do paid media. We don't just do SEO. We don't just do influencers. There are hundreds of thousands of different types, card-linked offered type affiliates. Everybody and their mother forms part of the performance marketing program. So I always like to introduce us as an agency as the service provider to the head of media, the service provider to the head of acquisition, a service provider to, the head of SEO. And then I want to understand, where are you struggling right now and how can we fill those gaps for you? Because we're a service provider to you. We're a channel on our own, but we're also a service provider to you. And my first job is to fix the gaps that you already know of, leveraging the partners that I know who can fix those gaps, and then go out and find net new where your budget isn't stretching or where my budget can go. So, and that could be like different geos, different products that you want to push harder because your own budget is spent on other things. Like, there's so many different ways to skin the cat. So that would be the first thing that I would say if somebody's working in a bigger program where there's multiple different teams involved, is get everybody that needs to be around that table in the first week and decide what is it that you want affiliates to do for you. The second thing is the why. Often we don't know why we want affiliates and what we want affiliates to do for us. Is it a brand play? Is it a lead gen play? Is it I want high value customers? Is it I want them to find me customers in a market where my own budget isn't being spent? There's so many ways that an affiliate program can be run and set up to augment what you're already doing in your business. So the why and getting a seat at the table, those are the two big things for me. But that's from my perspective as an agency.
I would even add to that as well, that point of like, why do we have affiliates? A secondary item there is, do our affiliates understand what we want from them? So through the commission scheme, through our newsletters, are we telling them what we want them to achieve, or are we just saying we're going to pay you X amount on leads, sales, events, etc.? Because that doesn't necessarily give them full understanding of what you are measuring them against. So if you can be more prescriptive, if you can be more transparent, even if that is just simply in the way that you commission your program. So we want new customers above existing customers, and we want those new customers to be from these markets, and we are going to highly value them if they spend over this threshold. That tells your affiliates what you want from them more than just a flat fee across the program. And it should also support your own business goals and in getting those people around the table. I think that's really important. I think a lot of brands are hesitant to make their commission schemes overly complex because they worry that affiliates will be confused by it. But I think as long as there is ample opportunity for them to meet those particular asks, then it is a pure method of communication.
Yeah, I 100% agree with both of you. I will say commission schemes can be too complicated. I have worked at companies where they are far too complicated. But
like keep it simple, stupid.
Basically. But I'm with Leanne. Like, it's the same internally. Like, you need to get people on side. At Swarovski, we have a set budget that was just given to us for the year. This is how it's always been. And with the constant conversations with senior management in terms of what we're doing, what the outcome of what we're doing is, we've actually been able to unlock what we call dynamic budget. So we can invest more into the channel without having to worry so much about the restrictions. The other thing I would say, is important to get on side is if you do have a data analysis team, like, make friends with them, because I can do a basic Excel sheet in terms of like, okay, this is what happened before, this is what happened after, and this is the percentage difference. But they're the ones who are going to actually help you set up a test that will actually help prove incrementality in a way that you just have no idea that that even existed before you talk to them. So I love our data analysis team at all of the companies that I've worked at, and highly recommend even just chatting with them in terms of like what their recommendations are. And they're happy, at least with us, to join calls with like our publishers and kind of work together with them to identify the best way to run a test that's going to be beneficial for everybody involved.
Yeah. Some of the best companies that I've worked with, the BI and data intelligence teams, have been able to prove out whether a campaign is going to work within the first 2 weeks or not based on the data that's been delivered. And believe me, having a formula that tells you that with big deals that you're doing, in increment, like double-digit figure deals, is like a godsend. And it's not something that an affiliate manager, like, run-of-the-mill affiliate manager, is not a BI data analyst. They need to know their numbers, but they're not that involved. So having those people on side and being able to have those people in your team that can help you it's nothing short of a godsend.
I feel like I don't have to speak more because you guys basically touched all the points essentially. It's like you guys are picking it all up already. But no, 100% agree.
You have another question though, so I wonder if you would be gracious enough to take the question. And the question is, proving incrementality is such a huge topic right now, and with budgets under pressure, we want to ensure it goes into the right places. How often are you testing to prove incrementality across your marketing mix? So question one. And then question two, what attribution models are you using? I don't know if that's something that you feel you can take.
Yeah. I think as a business, we have been talking about multi-touch attribution. I think a lot of brands do for a very long time. I think since the first day I've joined, which is a long time ago. But we are still on a last click. And even though we're on a last click, we look at incrementality patterns. And beyond that, we're also looking at marketing mix model. So like marketing mix model helps you understand sort of, where you're spending money and to which part of which activity for each channel that's going to drive you the best ROI and the ROI that you're looking for. So I think kind of going back to the point that you guys were talking about earlier is making sure you get everyone in the business at the same table. A marketing mix model requires the same. It's something that you can kind of run as a whole. So you kind of get an assessment of like, what are your key things that you want to look at. So for example, in affiliates, what we care a lot about is to understand, which key sectors are important for us. We have so many different types of sectors, so many different types of partners. We want to know what kind of campaigns that we're running are actually driving the right ROI for us. And on top of that, we are also including offline campaigns into all of this marketing mix model. So like, yeah, essentially it's something that you can kind of like run, and then as you go, like when you start, like that's on a high level across the business, but as you start testing and running campaigns with each and every one of affiliates, it's also going in to understand and see that data, like how, like which part of the journey, what the incrementality pattern looks like the pattern of the user behavior. A user comes in, do they interact with your channel first, do they go to another channel, like what, and then you can kind of like start to understand what that pattern looks like. How many times in the journey does affiliate come in, which sector partners come in into it. And I think the more data you get, you're able to start piecing out all of these user journey experiences and kind of like see that pattern across a lot of it. And I think to Chloe's point, this is where you need to leverage like your BI teams, because they are the ones that can slice and dice all of these data for you, and you can kind of be able to look at that. And you can kind of then assess, okay, we should start investing more into a certain type of sector, or like put a certain percentage more, because we know that this type of sector partners are going to drive us, essentially are part of the journey to help us get that revenue. Because like, yes, we run a lot of the things on last click internally, but we know that it's not the last channel that gets everything. It's not the last channel that's the only channel that drives it. It needs to come through multiple channels. So it's like kind of having a big picture understanding of your marketing mix model, and then from there understanding individual type of sector partners. You kind of like have that data, and you can do it like very frequently. You can dive into every time you run a test as well. But yeah, I don't know if you guys have the same thoughts around it.
I think we have. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, you go through. I'll go next.
Okay, perfect. I was going to say for MMM stuff, my only caveat is that just make sure it's set up correctly for affiliates, because when I've worked with it previously, it will call out, oh, affiliates is doing really well. And you're like, okay, yes, like because we're like doing 2% rates with certain partners, and that's why our ROAS looks so high. So just make sure that that is set up correctly. And also for anybody who's listening to this, a lot of this sort of stuff works really well for big companies, because you need a really large amount of data and you need a lot of spend going into it as well. So just bear that in mind, that this is not going to be appropriate for a smaller company or a company that's just getting off the ground, but more so for a mid-tier to larger company in order to fully leverage the data and make sure that it's accurate.
That's a very good caveat. Yeah. That's the number one thing about the MMM. You need to ensure that the spend is sizable, because otherwise you're gonna get very skewed results.
Mm-hmm. And also making sure that through all of this, you're not testing during peak periods.
Oh my God, no testing. Starting in October.
I mean, you can't measure this if all of a sudden there's like, a special offer or something that's happening. So just remember all the metrics that impact your testing period as well, and keep that in mind, because it could also skew your numbers. So Harry, I hope that that's answered your question. Thank you very much for asking it. I think it was a really good one. And Red, thank you for asking the question too. I know you're on the chat as well, watching us live. Is there any more questions? I'm going to ask everybody on YouTube. Now is the time to type in your question if you want to ask anything from these lovely ladies. And then if you're on LinkedIn, I'm going to try and search the LinkedIn chat too in just a moment.
I'll do a quick wrap up then of key takeaways just while we're waiting for any last questions to come in. So the most important ones that I have noted down are that don't guess. So don't make blind guesses when you are trying to assume incrementality or trying to give a response on the question of incrementality. Ensure that you have the right setup and the right tools in place before you start. And then make sure that when you are testing, you're doing this in a structured and organized way. So as we've just said, make sure that you're not doing it in peak periods. Make sure that you have the buy-in from your leadership team. Ensure that you have considered all your metrics, considered your full funnel, and that you are not kind of running the risk of being too affected by a mistake. Like, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay for the data to not look pretty, but ensure that you are putting safeguards in place, i.e. don't get rid of all of your bottom of the funnel affiliates and expect them to come back next week and deliver the same amount of revenue for you. It's okay to make mistakes, but make sure that they're mistakes you can afford to make, rather than just going in all guns blazing.
Yeah, I love that. All right. Doesn't look like we've got any more questions. So I think we've answered everything that everybody had a burning desire to ask. Let me just quickly check YouTube. Yeah, we're good. So I think that's where we're going to wrap it up today. Hopefully this has given everybody in our community a little bit more insight into how some of the bigger programs run their incrementality testing, and also that it has helped you to understand when you should be worrying about it. Because if you're kind of a smaller program, it's not something that you need to be concerned about right now, but it's something that you should educate yourself on. So hopefully you found this all useful. I'd like to extend a massive thank you to all of you for joining me today. It has been a pleasure to be on this panel with you again. Daisy, thank you so much for hosting it and moderating it for us again. And Nedra and Chloe, it's just fabulous to hear all of your insights. So thank you so much for being on this webinar with us today and sharing it with our community. Really appreciate you guys.
Thanks for having us, Leanne.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, Leanne.
Till next month, guys. We'll see you again on the next edition of the webinar series. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.